everyone.
We can get
Yes,
started.
let's get started. If there are any latecomers, that's okay. We'll just, Natalie will keep an eye on who's there in the waiting room and welcome them. I'll do a quick introduction of myself. My name is Jonathan Haller. I have the privilege of serving on the board of the Association of Christian Media. I also have the privilege and honor of being involved in one of the media organizations in Cape Town, South Africa. And this morning, it's all about an incredible training session that we're going to hear from Molly Kubes, just like ice cubes. So if you wonder how to pronounce it, like I did earlier, just think ice, ice, baby. But seriously, Molly, let me tell you a little bit about Molly. She's a marketing manager for Yes, He Is. And she channels her passion for evangelism into empowering young adults to share the gospel message of Jesus Christ. And what's amazing is Molly's got an incredible testimony, and hopefully in the not too distant future, there'll be some more exposed about that in terms of just transitioning herself from an entrepreneur with some 20,000 followers on Instagram. And God has just met her, and she's now in an amazing space of the nonprofit sector. Molly brings expertise in organic and influencer marketing, and her upcoming presentation will focus on the power of authentic social media engagement to drive key outcomes. So we're going to run with Molly till about 10 o'clock, and then there'll be an opportunity for questions and answers. And of course, if during Molly's presentation you've got a specific question, just put it in the chat, and then after Molly's presentation we'll get to those questions and share that so we can all be a part of that. And then we'll finish off at about 11:30, is that right? Or was it 10:30? I thought it was 10:30. 10:30. Okay, cool. I'm getting the nod from Natalie. That means I've got the 10:30 right. And yeah, looking forward to that so much. But without further ado, let's give the stage, so to speak, to Molly Kubes, all the way in a location close to Brisbane, Australia. And she's got some shrimp on the barbie. Just kidding.
Oh, that was a great intro. Thank you so much. I don't think I've ever been introduced with Ice Ice Baby, so that is a new one. That will definitely go down in the memory books. So thank you. Hi everybody. I'm so excited to be here and share with you some information on social media and what we do at Yes He Is and CV. I have my chat open, so I would love for you guys to engage throughout this presentation. If something's really landing with you, or if you have a question that comes up, you can always pop it in the chat, and then we can go a little bit deeper into it at the end if it doesn't fit within the presentation as we move through it. But feel free to put it in there anyways. I'll also ask a couple of questions throughout the presentation just around your audience, and just so that I can make sure that the information that I'm sharing is going to support you in your goals. So definitely engage in there, and yeah. So I'll just share my screen here and we'll get started. All right, can you guys see that okay? You can give me a thumbs up or put in the
we
chat.
can see it.
Yeah, okay, great. So just so you guys know, I work at CV, so Christian Vision. And for those of you that don't know much about CV, we have 3 objectives. Number 1 is to reach people directly with the gospel. Number 2, this is the objective that I work in with Yes He Is, which is to mobilize Christians to share the gospel. And then number 3 is to resource the church. So I work for Yes He Is. This is our logo. Our mission is to help more people spread the good news of Jesus. And just a little bit more information about Yes He Is we inspire, train, and equip through online communities. Our primary place of influence is Instagram. We work and operate in 16 plus languages, which is super cool. 7.2 total engagements. We're on 90 plus social channels across all languages. And we have 131 million content views, and our community size is around 5.7 million, which is really awesome. So we have a really big reach of Christians, and these are statistics from the past year. And a little bit about me. So I work as the marketing manager on the lead country team. So I help manage all of those different languages and their marketing strategy. So some of my background, you heard a little bit about that in the introduction. So I used to be a New Age influencer. These are some photos of me holding various New Age objects like crystals and sage and Tibetan singing bowls with mudras and things like that. And I actually grew my business and brand, a New Age brand, through Instagram. So I started off as a full-time yoga teacher, and I was teaching full-time in the studios. I wasn't making very much income by doing that, and I had a few friends who were going online. And I decided to follow suit and start to grow my presence on social media. I started to build online courses. And what happened was so many people saw my growth, and I started to have a lot of other yoga teachers and people in the new age spiritual space reach out to me and ask me what I was doing and how I was able to grow online, and basically how they could do the same thing. And I felt very underqualified at the time, around teaching social media and things like that. But I ended up having so many people being very persistent to want to learn from me that I ended up just starting to teach what I knew. And basically what happened was my business really started to grow. It started to generate multi six figures at the time in this new age space. And then I found Jesus, and that was so impactful for me. And I started to feel very convicted about these spiritual new age practices that I was doing. And I decided to lay down my business, lay down my accounts, and start working for CB. So I got baptized and saw that there was a position for a marketing specialist at CV, and for Yes He Is. And I applied and I got the position, and I ended up becoming a manager within a couple of months, which was really cool. And now I manage all those other global accounts and help them with their marketing strategy. So one of the really cool things that I just want to share as well before I go into some of the actual strategies and things like that around social media is just how much Yes He Is helped me with evangelism. I'm really, really passionate about helping others know Jesus, and Yes He Is help me do that. So when I was in that new age space and I had that following on Instagram, I literally, and I found Jesus, I got on my Instagram and started sharing, I no longer believe in all that I was doing. Like everything I was doing, I felt was witchcraft. And I was very bold and direct about a lot of these things, but a lot of people didn't take it too well. But yes, he has really taught me how to share Jesus in a relational way, in a way that was actually really effective. So I really believe in what we're doing here at Yes He Is. So definitely check out our page, not just for the social media strategy and to see some of the stuff that I'll share with you throughout this presentation, but also just for the fact that it's just such an amazing organization and a lot of the tools are really effective. So it's super cool. Um, so when it comes to social media, and I shared with you around how we have that reach that's in the millions through Yes He Is. How did we get there? What is the strategy to do that? But before I do that, I want to address a really major problem. So a lot of the times when we think about having success through social media, and I used to think this as well in my previous business, we think about and we relate success to having that big viral content, having a big following, big content production. So spending a lot of money on content, using a lot of really fancy equipment and things like that. Um, But all of that sounds exhausting and also expensive, right? You can let me know in the chat if that's something that maybe you have equated to having success with social media, but you just feel like that it's exhausting, you know? And I want to encourage you throughout this presentation and beyond this presentation to stop chasing that reach. Stop chasing those big numbers. Stop chasing some of those things that you might have equated with success and start chasing relationship. So I'm going to encourage you today to stop going big and to actually start going small, and why this can really help you with your organization and getting the results that you're wanting to get. Stop going wide, casting that big net, and start going deep. Start going more direct. So vanity metrics, what is vanity metrics? Vanity metrics are those big views, big follows, but they can often have little return. And when I was running my business and I was in the influencer space, I really realized how this is a big thing. You know, there are certain accounts that had those big followers and it seemed like big reach, but it was almost as if nothing was coming from it. There wasn't any fruit from it. And then some of my clients that maybe had smaller followings, but they're really intentional about building relationship with the people that were following them, they had some of the biggest success in their business. So that was a huge breakthrough for me to really realize that, okay, it's not actually about those big numbers. It's about having more of those meaningful metrics, you know? So building those relationships with the people that are following you, and doing that by being intentional with connecting with them. So doing that through direct messages and creating opportunities for more high investment comments, which we'll get into what that can look like, what that means, and how you can generate that. So what if the quality of conversation equaled higher conversions for your organization? What if focusing on the one actually was the thing that would allow you to help the millions? And that viral hamster reel wasn't actually necessary for success. So I'm going to encourage you today to stop trying to reach everybody at once and just start talking to somebody. So at Yes He Is, this is an approach that we took. So we stopped focusing on the likes, the followers, and the vanity metrics. We had a conversation with the founder of CV, and basically they shared that they wanted to see if Yes He Is was actually effective. You know, there was such a huge focus literally on the amount of followers. But then the question came into play, is Yes He Is even helping people? Is it even effective? So then we started focusing on creating more direct messages and high investment comments. So instead of those big flashy numbers, we started focusing more on communication and connection. And just an example of that, maybe there are pages that have a lot of what can seem like engagement, but really they're just getting comments like amen or prayer emojis or things like that. And we wanted to turn those amens into higher investment comments like this one you can see here, where they're really sharing something from their heart. Instead of just emojis, it was sharing stories, sharing things that were much deeper to them versus, you know, something that might seem more surface level. And just to give you some context, so what we do at Yes He Is, what our success metrics are now, before they used to be followers and those big numbers, but now our success metrics are this thing called AOEs, so acts of evangelism. So this is my job, is to literally increase the amount of acts of evangelism around the world. These are the KPIs that we measure. And you can see we even break down these success metrics into starting a faith conversation, share part of your testimony, share a gospel resource. We literally track all of these things. And our goal with our content is to create more of these acts of evangelism. These are some other metrics as well, where we track the amount of these KPIs we're seeing in a public space versus a private space. You can see there's a difference. We get a lot more private messages, a lot more have more depth to them versus public. And the cases with acts of evangelism. So cases are a user that has connected with us, and the AOE is the act of evangelism. So you might hear me say that language a few times throughout this presentation, but what we're tracking is AOE's acts of evangelism. All right, so that is a much more meaningful metric, right? Tracking acts of evangelism versus tracking followers, right? So meaningful metrics, how did we shift our strategy to gain these meaningful metrics? And we did this by developing and creating trust, intimacy, and relationship with our audience. So instead of just casting that wide net, trying to reach everyone, we really started to focus on that depth and relationship. So how did we do this? What were actually some of the strategies? So the first one that I'll share with you is to actually ask and then listen to your audience. So I made this mistake when I was in my new age business, where when I first started posting on social media, I just posted things that I liked. It was, I enjoy this, so maybe other people might enjoy this. I want to learn about this, maybe other people want to learn about this. And that was actually a huge mistake, because I wasn't actually listening to what my target market needed. I was technically a leader in that space. So the things that I was interested in were a lot different than somebody that was a few steps behind me and wanted to learn from me. So I need to really take a step back and start to ask, what do you guys want to learn? What are you struggling with? And start to really listen and create content from that place. So I want to ask you, and you can let me know in the chat as well, are you actively creating opportunities for your audience to share what they are wanting and needing from you? Or are you just posting things that you think your audience might find interesting, or have you asked them? It's kind of like, when you're in a relationship and you want to do something nice for the person, and you could guess, which may be effective, right? Or you could actually ask them what they would appreciate, and then go from there. You're probably going to get a better result if you actually ask. So we at Yes He Is intentionally create opportunities for our audience to share stories, barriers, or even their own advice and ideas. This is actually really interesting, and I'll show you some examples of this. So we can actually take that content, and it takes a load off of us and our brains trying to come up with all these cool new ideas. We just ask our audience what they want, and I'll show you how to do this in a strategic way. And then we create content from that place. So how do we get our audience to share? So we do these different things on Instagram specifically, where we're using engagement features. So you can let me know in the chat or later if you're currently using Instagram. One of the things that's really cool about Instagram is that there are different engagement features, such as polls and question stickers in stories. So we actually gather a lot of information from these places. So anytime we have a question, we will ask our community. I'll give you a cool example of this as well, is that we've been wanting to create a subculture, a sub-community within Yes He Is. So it's not just on social media, but it's something that's a little bit deeper. And we had the idea of either having a Facebook group, a WhatsApp group, or a Discord channel. And I'm a millennial, so I came from the Facebook era where there's lots of Facebook groups, and that is something that I still actively am involved in. And so I figured Facebook would probably be the way to go. But our audience is a little bit younger and actually voted for Discord. So now we have created a Discord community. So instead of us just guessing what we thought we would like, or myself, what I thought I would like, we asked our audience, what would you like? And they voted, and then we chose to move forward with the option that they voted for. So if you're ever feeling confused around what direction to go, know that you can always ask. And they are effective. So our KPIs are acts of evangelism, and we were able to increase our, this is an example of how we increased our KPIs just by asking, have you shared, this actually happened yesterday, this example, and somebody replied to our question sticker where we asked, how have you shared Jesus through your hobbies? They said, oh, I think I actually have done that. And then we were able to build conversation with this person. So one of the other things that we do is we intentionally ask questions often. So at the end of every single content piece, we have this thing called a CTA, or call to action. We do this on every single post. And basically, this is a way that we can gain engagement from our audience. So here's an example of a barrier CTA where we ask, what's holding you back from trusting the Holy Spirit more with your friend's salvation? Share your thoughts below. And there's a few different examples of people that have given some really cool comments. So one example is, what do I do if my friend is just indifferent? Like, I share and talk about God, trying to have a normal, logical convo when we both share our beliefs and trying to find out what's best, but the best I get is okay or sure. So that's a really good question. What do you do if your friend is indifferent? So what we have done is we've created content specifically around those types of things. That's a great idea from our audience member. A real problem that they're experiencing, we want to take initiative and help create resources to solve that problem for that person. If one person's having that problem, it means that multiple people are having a similar problem. Maybe they're not publicly sharing it on our social media, but that doesn't mean that they don't have it. So that's something that you can think about, is that what are some of the things that people have been reaching out to me, and how can I create content that's going to really speak to them? So these are the social media call to action types that we use. So this has changed a little bit throughout the years, but these are the ones that we're using currently. So barrier, that's the one I just showed you, which is, what is your struggle around starting a faith conversation? Act, this is one where we're encouraging our audience to go out and take action. Tell, this is where we're encouraging our audience to tell us if they have taken an act of evangelism. This helps us increase our KPIs and see if our content is effective. Idea, this is where we're asking our audience to share certain ideas around something. This one's really fun. Your audience really wants to share with you the stuff that they have ideas about. So give them an opportunity to do so. They have some great ideas. And then reflect. So this allows our audience to reflect on something and share their thoughts around that reflection. Here's some more examples of different call to actions. Here's a barrier one, which is, what stops you from staying connected to Jesus? Tell us in the comments. Another barrier one, where's the hardest place for you to be open about your faith? Tell us in the comments. And then this one, which is kind of more of an idea one, how do people know that you are, or is also a reflect, could be more on the reflection end. How do people know that you're a Christian? Share ideas in the comments. So those are just some different examples of call to actions. These are ones that have been quite popular. You'll find that the barrier ones are probably the most popular. And these are probably the most useful ones for you to use as well, because it allows you to create content from that place. So your audience wants to engage with you, and it's important that we create opportunities for that. So 2, let's create content the audience wants. So when we do this, when we take that content or those comments that people are sharing from those call to actions and we create content from that, that's going to help build trust and deepen the relationship because you're actually listening to your audience. It's not just cookie cutter content that we think our audience is going to want, but it's literally the specific resources that they have been asking for. So ask and listen, and then create from that place. So at Yes Yes, we stopped creating content we wanted to create, and we started creating content that our audience was asking for. So how do we do this? What is our exact process here? So first, we create content with call to actions. We use engagement features like those polls and stickers. And then the audience will comment and respond. Then we have a response team that will reach out to these people and actually continue to build the conversation. Then we take those comments and cool things that have come from those conversations and those ideas, and we put them in what we would call a content bucket. And then from there, then myself from the marketing team and the content team and the community team, we would have an ideation meeting. So this is basically where we review the ideas that have come through in the bucket, and then we would have a meeting and ideate future content from that place. And I do actually have a Google Sheet where I can show you more in depth, but I'll share that with you at the end of this, where you can actually see a little bit more in depth of our process. So this type of content creation structure adds a lot more value to your audience. And just to go back, it also will take a lot of load off of you as a content production team. So if you are in a small team, or even if it's just you, and you feel like you're running out of ideas, you're not really sure what to post, it feels like things aren't hitting, using this type of strategy where you're going back here, you're using engagement features and call to actions to create a little bit of buzz, then taking those responses and creating content from that place, it will make it a lot easier for you so that you don't feel like you're running around in circles where things aren't hitting. You're creating valuable resources and valuable content that's going to allow people to become more loyal followers and want to keep coming back to your page, keep sharing your content with other people, and be like a higher investment user. So I'm going to share with you the VPEP, kind of fun to say, method. So this is a method I used to teach my clients even pre-Jesus, and I still teach it now because it's a really valuable method. So this is value proof entertainment promo, and I'll go over these different content structures. So I've talked a lot about value-based content, so having those engagement features like call to actions, things like that to create resources and valuable tools and content pieces for your audience. But should it always be high value? What should that actually look like? And it doesn't always have to be high value, but that is something that it's really important for you to share. So this is an example of a post from our Philippine account of value. So basically value will provide value to our audience. So it's kind of more teaching type of content. It makes people feel like this was produced just for me. This is typically the type of content where people will share, I'm struggling with this, and then we create a resource based off of that, provides knowledge and practical skills about evangelism, motivates people toward acts of evangelism. So this is for us as Yes He Is, but it might be different for you and your organization. And it's just like a training carousel. So a carousel is a post on Instagram that has multiple, you can swipe through multiple times. So what about proof? What is proof content? So this will establish more credibility and trust with your brand. It will reinforce to your community whatever it is that your outcome is, so that for us is that they're not alone on their evangelism journey. And it's also what we would call testimonials. So for us, we share stories of people who are sharing Jesus because our goal is to help more people with evangelism. But maybe it's people who are in our community, maybe it's data, maybe it's stats, anything that's going to prove the value-based content that we've been sharing. So the stuff that we've been sharing actually works. That's kind of the message that you want to share with proof-based content. So you probably want most of your content to be that value, but then you back that up with proof. Entertainment is the third type of content to be creating. So this is content for us where we use things like memes or funny reels or trends that is going to make evangelism entertaining and enjoyable. So it captures attention through creative storytelling or just great memes. So that's something, maybe it's not necessarily adding a lot of value to people's lives, but it's making people laugh, it's making people feel connected, and it's building relationship. You don't want all of your content to be entertaining because then it's not necessarily positioning you as an authority in the space. Value-based content and proof-based content will, but entertainment will create more community and will most likely have higher engagement. And then finally, promo. So this is content that will, for us, will promote our brand. This is an example of a brand launch post or we can promote events, resources, tools, and invites our audience to engage deeper into our funnel, which I'll share with you what that means in a couple of minutes, and participation in our resources. So you don't want everything to be all promo. You've probably seen those pages or brands where it's just like always promoting, and that's not something that you want to do. You want to have high value. Oops, sorry. You want to have high value, prove the value, so that will create credibility. Sprinkle in some entertainment to build relationship, and then finally promote in segments throughout the year, not all the time, segments throughout the week, and like be very direct and bold with your promo. Just don't do it all the time. Don't overuse it. So we want our value content to speak to one target audience member at a time. This is really important because oftentimes we want to speak to everyone because we're like, well, this person won't land with this, but this person might, but this person is in a totally different target market and it might not make sense to them. So we try to really make our content more vague so that it can speak to everyone, but that actually creates really weak content, unfortunately. So we want to actually go really deep in one content piece and really, really speak to one person at a time. So do that for one content piece, then the next content piece, you speak to that next person on that deeper level. So here's some examples of very niche content. So how do I share my faith with my Muslim friends? That's a very niche topic for us, but that was one of our most popular posts. And that is because it's just it's speaking so deeply to one type of scenario, one type of person. Another one here is where we're sharing how to combat imposter syndrome. So that's something that not everyone experiences, but a niche group of people will. And then the final one is what to do when your faith is mocked. And this is actually, I wanted to share this one because we actually included and quoted a member of our community. And we were very upfront with that post was to support that comment that we received. So that's something that you can do as well, is that you can be very overt with that. Don't be scared to address only one problem in a post. Don't be scared to go really niche. And instead of going wide, going deep. Um, and one thing I wanted to share with you as well, to give you some context on Yes He Is, because I know many of you work in multiple different languages, and that can pose a little bit of a difficulty for you in creating content. It's like, will it land in these different languages, in these different regions? Will that be effective? And I want to share with you how Yes He Is navigates this. And hopefully that will provide some value for you. So I work as the marketing manager for the lead country team, and we operate in Australia. But then there's all these other teams all around the world that also have Yes He Is pages that they manage. So we have a few different languages in Eastern Europe. Then we have Western Europe, we have the Philippines, Korea, Indonesia, Brazil, Latin America, and there's a few more countries that are coming on board, which is really exciting, and languages. And so how basically what we do is we create content that then gets translated into all these different languages. So does that even work? Is that even effective? I'll show you a little bit of an inside look. So it's actually very effective. And it was quite surprising. A lot of people were quite resistant when we announced that there would be a lead country team that would be creating content and then it would be translated across these different languages. You know, there's obviously very different cultural differences between Korea and, you know, Eastern Europe, as an example. You know, will the content land in these multiple different regions if it's the same thing? And what we found was surprisingly, it has been landing quite consistently. And to everyone's surprise, actually, a lot of people thought that the content in terms of engagement and success would differ on a quite a vast scale throughout the different languages, but it's actually been quite similar. A lot of the top performing posts throughout a campaign are some of the most popular ones throughout multiple different languages, and the low performing ones are typically the same. They're low performing in multiple different languages, which is really, really interesting. So this as an example, when we were operating with 11 languages, this was the top post in 8 out of 11. So it's just really, really interesting. So if you are in a position where there are multiple languages, don't be afraid to create multiple pages in different languages and have the same content, but have it be translated. And we use an AI translation and then called localize. And then teams go through and just make sure that it makes sense. So that saves a lot of time for teams as well. This is something that I'm curious about for you, and I just wanted to share this information. A lot of people get really confused around what platforms they should be using, and what I want to share is it really depends on your target market. So if you're trying to reach millennials and above, Facebook is going to be your go-to. If you want to reach people in the 18 to 24 range. Instagram is a really good place. That's the age that we were originally targeting. And then if you want to reach people a little bit younger in the 10 to 19 age group, then TikTok is going to be the place that you want to be posting. And I really want to emphasize, don't feel like you need to post everywhere right away. Think about your age of your target market, and then focus a lot of your energy and efforts there, really grow there. And then if you feel comfortable, then expand out to some of the other places. So again, stop going wide and start going deep. Start really focusing on what makes sense and building relationship. Okay, so number 3, final point, is conversions happen in the DMs. Sliding into the DMs. So content creation versus conversation. We're gonna have a conversation about this. So this is typically what a lot of brands and social media pages focus on, is where they put a very large emphasis of their time, resource, and budget on the content. So spending a lot of money on ads, on content production, things like that. There's a huge emphasis on that. And then there's very little emphasis on conversation. This is what we do, and what I really want to emphasize that you start thinking about with your social media pages and your organization is having the same amount of time spent on content as you spend on conversation. So what does that actually mean? So when I say conversation, I'm talking about replying to every single comment, reaching out to the people that are commenting and sending them a direct message, asking them a lot of questions, using engagement features such as the polls on stories, and then privately reaching out to the people that respond, making sure that you're initiating the conversation. If there is no conversation happening, take initiative and start building it yourself. Start reaching out to the people that are just sending the prayer emojis. Just start asking questions. A really good way to increase the amount of conversation that is happening is, even if you're getting one-word answers, just ask questions. You never know what type of impact that could have until you try. So conversions, and what I mean by conversions is typically what I used to refer to as a sale. So a lot of my sales in my previous business came through direct message, and it came through me reaching out to people. Even people that would just like the post, I would reach out and build a conversation. Now, I wouldn't go right for the sale right away. It would be more so like, let's build a relationship first. Let's connect. Let's see if I can actually help you. Let's see if this is something that could benefit you or add value to you. And let's just starting to build that relationship. We do a similar thing with Yes Yes, where we're not making sales, but our conversions are encouraging a Christian to start taking an active evangelism, and we track those things. Those, we have a higher amount of those that happen in direct message versus in the comments. So when we can have more of that direct conversation, it makes a huge difference. So how does this work? How can a conversation, what is an inside look into something like that? So I'll show you some examples of some social media posts. So this is a reel on our Instagram. It's one of our more recent ones, and you can see that this is a very simple reel, very low content, like production. Literally just filming in the dark on the street. You can go and watch it and be like, oh, okay, with a question on it. And we got a ton of comments from this, and it's quite a polarizing, question. It's something where we're asking our audience, how would you go about sharing Jesus with someone who's a firm believer in science? we know a lot of our followers struggle with this, where someone really believes in science over faith. And so we asked, like, how would you deal with this? So this is where we're actually asking our audience for advice. And then there's tons of people who share these high value comments where it's more than a couple of words in the comments. And then there's people who are like, I actually like really need the answer to this. And then we ask them, do you want to chat more? Like, we could probably help you a little bit more privately. Like, do you want to chat in the DMs? And then they say yes, yes, with the teary-eyed emoji that they're so grateful that we actually reach out. And then they sent the DM, and the conversation was really encouraging and was able to help this person feel more confident about evangelism. Here's another example. This is literally was just filmed in our office, somebody just grabbing coffee. And this was actually, we took this from a really popular post, a really popular carousel post. And then we're like, well, let's just repurpose it and put it into a reel. And it was one of our more popular reels when it came to engagement. And people were just sharing those very high value, dense comments, which is really cool. So it wasn't a super new idea. It was something that had already worked. Just use a very low production reel and video. And we got a lot of really cool comments from that. Here's one other example where the creator was literally just filming their shoes walking and then lifted it up, and it was actually a video of us in the office, and it was just there's a statement. Jesus asked 307 questions, and he was asked 103, of which he only answered 3. Listen more than you speak when sharing Jesus. And then so that's a very bold statement, and something that really resonates with our audience and makes our audience think. And then it says, comment one question you will ask a non-Christian this week. And then all these people just posted all these questions. So just thought that was really, really cool to share with you. It doesn't have to be anything fancy. And it's just something that really can allow you to create community. So I want to share with you too an example of a conversion in a conversation. So just a little bit of an inside look. So again, just looking at this from how our conversions are acts of evangelism. So someone had commented on a post, and so we reached out and we shared with them. We love that you have shared your faith with your friend. You think it would be more of a conversation or finding out more? We have a post that might be helpful, but sometimes when we chat and have a listening ear to find out more about our friends, to love them with God's love, we may not know what people have in their hearts or where they might want to know more about their faith in Jesus. And then we send them a resource. So why I wanted to share this with you is because we're really chatting with this person. This person just replied with sure. You might get that and be like, okay, this person isn't really interested. But our community team, so the response team, have a mandate that they will just keep asking questions. Even if somebody just says sure, they're just gonna keep asking questions. Like, you never know what could happen. So we ask a question, like, did you find this post was helpful for you to being able to share your faith? They respond with yes. Then we ask, that's so cool. But what about that post inspired you? They share what inspired them. And then we ask, oh, that's awesome. Like, we ask another question. They share, a 3-word answer. Ask another question, 1-word answer. Ask another question. They don't really share too much, but they do share that they're a little bit nervous. We ask another question, and they continue to share. You can see that, they're starting to open up a little bit here. But even a little bit later on in the conversation on the second photo, you can see that they are still sharing like not too much. But as we got deeper into the conversation, oh, oh, sorry. I just saw that my presentation just shifted showing the background icons. Can you guys, is my presentation not showing for you guys?
No, it's working perfectly, Molly. It's
Oh, is
working
it?
perfectly.
Okay,
Yeah.
great. Okay, cool. Thanks. Let me know if you guys can't see it. Okay, great. It's full screen again. Okay. Um, so the reason why I wanted to share with you this conversation is that this conversation actually became, this person actually ended up going out and taking an act of evangelism and basically adding to our conversions, like our KPIs. And if the community team didn't persist in just being curious and asking questions, then this person might not have been encouraged to go out and share their faith. So even if somebody's just giving you those simple one-word answers, sure, I think so, nothing where it feels like maybe from just a text standpoint, it might feel like they're kind of you could easily take it as like they're not really interested. I'm not going to pursue this. You never know what could happen by just continuing to ask questions, share resources, and also following up, you know? Um, so that's something that we do as well, is that we ask for permission to follow up. Um, awesome. Okay, great. Yay, awesome. Happy that it's helping. Great. So, taking people deeper down the funnel will allow for deeper conversation. So I'm just conscious of time here. So, just to give you a little bit of a look. So one of our goals is to move people down the funnel. So we started off with just social media. And then we now have recently started to introduce middle of funnel resources, and we will eventually start to release bottom of funnel resources. So what does this look like? So on the top of funnel, this looks like, social media types of posts, things that are like the entertainment, the memes, promotion, things like that. Middle of funnel is things like our email list, our newsletter, where we will share like challenges and deeper content, events, to our network, things like that. And then bottom of funnel is where we actually have things like our courses and the deeper value types of things, coaching things, tools, things like that. So that's kind of how the funnel works. And we find, um, uh, oh, someone's saying that the left end edge is just a little bit off screen. Hopefully that helps there. Thanks for letting me know. Yeah, so then the bottom of funnel is some of those more higher value resources. Um, and I just want to share with you that when it comes to increasing our conversions, that we have found that the deeper people go down the funnel, the deeper and more value they will actually share with us. So just to give you an example, so these are some of the KPIs that we have tracked on social media. So people who have actually shared, like I have taken an act of evangelism. You can see it's like, some that are sharing a fair amount, but then it's just like a one sentence or two sentence or just a couple of words. That's quite common for what we're seeing. But you can see that through our email list, they're actually a lot deeper and higher value. People start to open up a lot more. So when we have found that we have moved people down the funnel, the investment is a lot higher. They're willing to share a lot more deeper down the funnel. So that's just something for you to think about and consider, is that, you know, social media should be the entry point, and then start to think about how you can move people deeper down the funnel. Okay. I'll go quickly into influencers as well. And if this is something that you want to ask more questions about, we can do this in the Q&A period. But instead of using ads for the past year and a half, we have been using influencers. Ads is something that we're starting to explore now. But the we're starting to use influencers. We use influencers a lot more. So this is just a quick example of what we have been doing. This is an influencer, Ariel Fitzpatrick, that we've been working with, and she promoted this challenge that generated a lot of these KPIs, all of these email responses. So basically, instead of having an ad that would direct people to the landing page of that challenge, we had Ariel, who's very relational. She creates a lot of cool videos. She created this video for us, and we encourage people to comment below. So when people actually, you know, comment something, it's a little bit of a more of an emotional investment for them. So we had them comment down a phrase below, and then we had this bot that would automatically send them this message, and it would send them this message through a direct message. So it's a little bit more personal, getting a personal message from Yes He Is. And if you guys want to see what this is like, we actually just launched a campaign yesterday with the same influencer. So if you go to our page at Yes He Is, you can see some of the videos that are pinned. If you comment a phrase below, it will either say Grace or Boom. You'll get a direct message similar to this. And then when you click on the link, it will take you to a challenge that you can sign up to. And then the challenge has a reply to this email where we're giving that opportunity for those higher investment comments and replies. So that is a way that we kind of brought people down the funnel. And just to give you some cool stats on how that really changed things for us, we were able to increase our email open rates by a lot. So the average email open rates for the West is around 21%, but by using this influencer and direct message campaign, we actually had a fairly high open rate. So it's around 50 to 60%. And there were some, like a very large amount of people that would sign up for our emails. So we grew our email list to over 10,000 in a couple of months just by using this strategy, which is really awesome. We also had the engagement of that post was still high months later as well. So a really good engagement rate is above 10%. And what was cool is that it wasn't just for the week that we posted it, but it was weeks and months later, it was still quite a high engagement rate. And just to share with you the KPIs that we tracked through, you can see on the left is all the KPIs that we tracked on Instagram, where we had almost 120,000 followers. And then on our email list, where now it's at around 10,000. At the time this was taken, it was around 7,000. You can see there's quite a large chunk of KPIs coming from that place in consideration to the amount of people that are actually on that list. So it's a much larger percentage of people that are following or are connected to either the email list or to the email list. So it's a much larger percentage of people that are actually quote unquote a conversion. So contributing to our key performance indicators. Awesome. Okay, great. So that was a lot of information. But the main thing that I want to share with you is not to, and that I hope you're taking away from this, is not to chase those big numbers and vanity metrics, but to really chase those meaningful metrics. So what's really going to increase the depth and the relationship between you and your audience. Build a relationship, rapport, and depth with your audience, and this will create long-lasting and a more committed audience. Awesome. So just a quick summary of all of that information. Number one, ask then listen to your audience. Two, create content the audience wants. And three, conversions happen in the DMs. Awesome. Okay, great. Well, thank you. I know that some of you have written in your questions. So yeah, awesome.
Perhaps we could just invite the people who've sent through questions. If you don't mind just unmuting, we could start at the top of the list.
Yeah, great.
And that'll be great. Fire away, please. Let's see, there's one from Londile.
Um, yeah, so I'm just looking at the KPIs and how you tracked everything, and then you went over to the conversions happen in the DMs. Is there is there database? So in terms of like when you're having that conversation, are you just having a conversation based on them reacting to the post, or in terms of walking them and like walking a journey with them, is there, does it then move down the funnel?
Yeah, yeah, so that's a really good question. So we do have a quote unquote database through this program called Sprinkler. So this is actually like it's a very it is a high investment platform. It's something that like big organizations like Nike and things like that they would use. So it's not something that's super accessible for everyone. However, you can basically what happens is all the response, so all people that are commenting or direct messaging come through as a case on Sprinkler, and then the response team will tag that case if they take an act of evangelism or if it could potentially become a conversation about evangelism. There's a certain tag for that. Now, not everyone has accessibility to something like big and fancy like Sprinkler, but when I was running my own business, what I did was I used free platforms like Trello.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot more manual, but basically you can put in all of your followers. So let's just say you have 700 followers. It can be a lot of work to put all of them in there, but then you can have different categories like has engaged with the content or a direct message has been sent, and you can write little notes and stuff about that person. So that might seem like a lot of manual effort, but it actually really will pay off in the long term because then you
Mm-hmm.
can go back and let's just say you want to launch your email list and launch that middle of funnel resource. You can go back to all the people that you have engaged with and send them all that resource. Um,
Okay.
and there are certain platforms like ManyChat that where you can have more of those automated bot things, and you'll be able to set that up when you actually have a list of like people that are a little bit more engaged versus not. Um, so yeah, if I hopefully that does that answer your question or give you some insight?
Yes. And then on in terms of your like your newsletters that you send out to the people who have engaged, is that like a daily thing or a weekly thing, or is it based on a post?
Yeah. So we currently send out a monthly newsletter, and that's
Mhm.
kind of like an update, and we add some value and things like that. But one of the things that got people on our newsletter was doing these things called challenges. And so this
Uh-huh.
is where there was actually an email being sent in an automated sequence for 4 to 5 days. And we do those like once a quarter, so probably like 4 times a year.
Mhm.
And um, that actually has gotten people on the list because we're giving them this high value resource. And then we still maintain the engagement of our list by sending them that monthly newsletter.
Okay. No, thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Okay.
Awesome. Good questions.
And then
Okay,
there's a
cool.
question from Cape Pulpit. Cape Pulpit, do you want to ask the question or should I just read it? Okay, maybe I'll just read it. The question is, Molly, should we pursue LinkedIn? LinkedIn, is that a good platform to use?
Yeah, so LinkedIn, that's actually a really good question as well. Again, it depends on your target market. So if you are wanting to build more relationship with people in churches or organizations or things like that, LinkedIn is a really good spot for that. It's really good for networking. Yeah, you want to post high quality professional content, definitely. Yeah, and you can also use it to engage influencers. So that's a really good answer to that question. So it honestly, it really just depends on your goals. So if your target market is there, if you're wanting, let's just say you want to receive like grants or something like that for your organization, like posting on there, that's going to be a really good place to do that.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Chris, you're just asking if the recording will be made available for us. I can answer that and say, yes, it will be made available so you can listen to it or watch it again later. That's great. Charlene, your opportunity to ask your questions. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, Molly. Thanks for this.
Hi.
I just wanted to ask, so the first question was just how important are aesthetics and design? You know, I see some Instagram accounts where the engagement's very high, but the design isn't very cohesive, and you know, the reels, it's like different fonts, and you know, so I just wonder, do we spend too much time on aesthetics? How much does it actually matter?
Yeah, such a good question. And I mean, I think it's kind of, you want to be in the middle, but I mean, you can even see some of those examples of reels that we shared where it was literally that guy's shoes and like a bold and polarizing question. And those are some of our top performing reels. It's just really funny because then we'll have this high, high production, high quality content that, costs a lot more money, uses a lot more expensive equipment, and it doesn't get as much traction. So I think the best thing that you can do is just really listen to your audience and create content that is very, very specific and niche for them. Double down on what has worked and have some sort of consistent brand, like have brand colors and brand fonts and things like that, but don't put too much emphasis on it. Like it's better to have content that will land. When content is a little bit all over the place, it does lose a little bit that professional element, So it really depends on what your goals are with your organization and things like that. So for us, we do tend to reach a lot of young adults and Gen Z, and they don't really care about that as much, like they like aesthetics and things like that, but the having a super consistent brand throughout everything on our social media platforms specifically isn't as important to them. It seems like, creating that content of those sneakers or, making coffee seems to really be quite popular amongst them. So it really depends on your target market and things like that. So, yeah.
Okay. And then I think the second question that I had was just around how often you should post. You know, with our radio station, there's like a few interviews a day, a lot of shows a day, and I find we end up posting too much, I sometimes feel. So is there a too much or a too little? What's the ideal number?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I think it's important to post at least once a day. However, we post probably about twice a day. We do one carousel or one reel. We find that to be really good. But we have experimented with posting more than twice a day or with reels. and we found the engagement actually went down. So we're actually decreasing the amount of content. We're in the process of doing that. Because like what can happen is that sometimes like it just won't get as much engagement if you're posting too much. So yeah, I think a good rule of thumb is post every day. Maybe if you have capacity, post twice a day with the different styles of content, but I probably wouldn't go more than that. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome.
Fantastic. That's great. And then Kate Pulpiter, they're just asking, is it true that IG, I take it as Instagram, can be blocked to certain countries because it is Christian content?
Yeah, that's a good question. So Facebook owns Instagram and owns Meta, and Facebook advertising 100% will be blocked in certain countries, most countries actually, if it is like promoting a religious type of content. So that is something to be aware of. And I believe, yes, it will also be blocked on Instagram organically in certain countries too. So it's just something to do some research around. The problem is that like I'm not 100% sure around which country specifically that could be blocked, but definitely do like a little Google search or something, see if you can find anything around that. Because what happens is if you go into Instagram jail where you've broken the rules, and a lot of the times they make these rules really hard for you to find, which is really frustrating. So, but if you go into Instagram jail, it's really hard to get out. And it takes a long time, and it can really affect your algorithm. So just be careful around that. So yes, it is true. So be careful.
Whoa, scary, hey? Nobody
Yeah.
wants to go to Instagram jail, definitely not. Oh, brilliant. All right, somebody from Impact Radio. Sorry, I don't know your name, sir, but please go for it.
Sorry, my name is Rory. So Molly, I just have one question with regards to the timing of the post. Like, is there a specific time and day when you know it's the best to post in order to get the most reach for your certain post? Because it can depend on if you are catering to a local audience or international audience. What advice would you give someone who's trying to cater to a worldwide audience in terms of the time and day to post?
Oh, that's such a good question. Yeah, especially if you're reaching a wide net of people. So one thing is, do you know how to see on your Instagram when your users are most active?
Okay.
Yeah.
Yes,
So
yes, I do.
yeah, it's not super new, but let me see if I can just pull it up. Um so it can be a little bit weird to find. So basically, for those of you that don't know, if you go up to your Instagram and you see and you go to your profile and you see that little hamburger icon, that is where it takes you into like your insights and things like that. So if you click that and then you scroll down, you should see, it might say something like for professionals and then click insights. And then what happens is if you click total followers, then you'll get like some more information about all of your followers. It should look something like this where you can see some more information. But if you go all the way down to the bottom, and you can actually see what hours your users are most active. So this is actually for my personal Ariel account. But most of my users are most active at either 6 a.m. or 9 p.m. So what I want to do is if I want to reach the most amount of people and get the most amount of engagement, you actually want to post it like 2 hours before, 1 to 2 hours before your peak times. And that way, it can start to build some traction on like an upward plane with the amount of people that will be active. So don't post at peak times, but post right before peak times. So hopefully that helps. Yay.
Always love the thumbs up. Thank you. Rudolph, you've got the question. Go for it, please. Sorry, Rudolph, we can't hear you. Sorry, we can't hear you. Not sure why we can't hear you. We can see your lips moving. Still not. Okay, should I just read your question perhaps? Would that be okay? Just give me there we go,
Oh,
Rudolph.
there you go.
We can hear you.
Okay. Thank you, Jonathan. The first question is really a mindset question. So many Christian organizations use the social media channels just to market themselves. They have nice Bible verses on it, the next content coming up, the places to donate, everything just about the organization. And it's typically the content is created by the marketing teams, and all they do is marketing. And so the content you're providing today are not really going to be helpful for them because all they would want to do is market themselves. So
Yeah.
how do you actually creating this big mind shift from being just organization focused, broadcasting everything we do so wonderfully on the media out to everybody else, to actually engaging with what's important in the community that would create the type of traction that we were talking about today. This is really a big mind shift change in many Christian organizations that are so well-meaning to tell everybody about what they're doing.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I think the best way to answer that is that it's called social media for a reason. And like if you want to be social, it's not just, when you go to those parties and then you meet someone and all they want to do is talk about themselves and you're like, okay, this is not really a conversation. This is just you talking to me. you know? So yeah, it's social media. It's not just media, right? And the way to make it social is to build conversation and relationship. And the way to have a really good conversation is to ask questions and make it about the other person, actually get curious about them and chat with them. And that's what we have to do with our brands and our marketing is that there is marketing and media where it's just promoting. That's like billboards and things like that. But this is a new form of marketing. Well, it's not that new anymore, but it's different. It's social media. So it's how can you create that conversation with your audience and make it more about them and what they want versus what we want. Especially for Christian organizations, because we're all about being selfless, right? So it's actually way better. It's better for your brand. It's better for your marketing. It's better for your KPIs. Doing it the way that Jesus does it. Jesus asked, a lot of questions. He didn't give too many answers. So
Thank you, Molly. I actually have a book on my shelf here which says the questions Jesus asked, all about what Jesus did.
I love
wrote a
that.
whole thick book about that.
That's awesome.
The second question is, as you engage people deeper and deeper, some of them you say are sharing openly from their heart, they're going deeper and deeper into the funnel, they're sharing much longer messages. In which way do you use them to actually help creating the content that you would actually post through the channel yourself? For example, in my social media, I post interesting questions, interesting photos I see just in daily life and ask people to guess what do they see. And recently, more and more of my friends are sending me photos of interesting pictures they've taken for me to post on my channel because they find it so intriguing. So my friends are creating content for my channel. And so I'm asking, how do you actually, would you involve those high value customers, or let's say clients, friends that you're developing to actually help shape some of the content that you would be posting on your channels because now they are part of the community?
Yeah, that's super cool. That's something that we're working on more. It's something that you can correct me if I'm wrong, but and if this lands with what you're communicating. But like it's building a team of ambassadors. So it's not just about, you know, reaching the millions. It's about actually those 1,000 true fans that are those people that are loyal, devoted, and wanting to contribute to the cause. And one way to do that is to build a movement. So it's not just about building a brand, but it's about building that momentum, building that movement, and having people be a part of something and see that they are contributing and giving them opportunities to contribute and rewarding that as well. So if people were sending you those photos and you just would deny them and ignore them and like not engage and not post it, they're not going to continue to do that. But if you share, hey, like this is a cool photo that this person sent me, you know, then it's creating that movement that other people are contributing to this cool thing. And other people, someone else might see that and be like, oh, like he actually reads his messages, he actually finds that cool, you know, I'm going to send him a photo too, you know. So like sharing and like you know, sharing people from the community, giving them credit, things like that. So if people are like, one cool way that you can do this as well is if people are sharing your content and then they're like, wow, this was a really cool post, and they share it in their stories, like reposting those stories, because it shows that people are involved. Another cool way that we're doing it right now, because we're launching a campaign, and I told my team today, I'm like, okay, tomorrow is hype day, is hype week. So we're gonna just share all the hype. So what we did is we had over, I haven't checked it in a few hours, but last time I checked, our influencer post had over 900 people that had commented. That's a lot of people. So then I had my team literally screen share the amount of people that had commented and be like, we're so excited that all of you are joining the challenge. Because all those people that had commented had been like, I want to join this challenge. So then we screen shared that. So it's stuff that's so obvious it's there, but showing that hype, you know, like over 900 people commented, that's pretty dope. Like you can go in and see that, but then emphasizing that is something that's cool. So just kind of maybe like lifting the veil a little bit. So it's not just like I'm a professional brand and this is who I am. It's like lifting the veil and creating that community, that digital community.
Thank you, Molly. Something very interesting happened that I actually got a message from a friend in East India. He said he wanted to repost my photographs to his community locally. I said, like, why? What does this help? And he says, no, his mind gets so encouraged by seeing my photos. He wants his pastors and his community also be inspired by looking at these photographs. So something I never intended, but it was amazing to see somebody see value in my post and want to engage a larger community in their side. And I think that's what you're really showing here, is that as people get engaged more, they also want to take your message further, which is quite amazing.
Aw, yeah, that's awesome. Yeah, definitely. Yay. Yeah, just being a part of that movement.
Yeah. Okay, and we've got another question. I think it's the last one, Nokobonga. If you don't mind unmuting and turn on your video if you don't mind.
Well, it's not really a question because Molly has already covered the entire thing, but I've just started as Natalie's assistant. So what I've been doing is just basically taking content from other content creators and reposting it. So I think we can have like so much impact if we also had like started creating our own content and, you know, building conversation with our followers and everything. So I just wanted you to echo more on how important is it to create your own content rather than reposting content from other content creators.
Oh yeah, that's actually a really cool question. So this is something that's a little bit more popular, is having more user-generated content. And again, if you're really struggling with resource and time and things like that, having user, like, instead of investing your money into ads, investing that money into user-generated content. And a lot of people will do user-generated content for quite a low budget as well. So this is where you can collab with other people and they create the content for you, and then they can post it as a collab post. So basically that post can be posted on 2 different channels at the same time, which is really awesome. And it's where other people start creating the content for you, and it's like a community of content versus just you being like your own content production like company or content production thing. And it can be really effective. You'll see a lot of brands use it as well.
Okay.
Yeah, like when they're advertising certain products or something like that, you'll notice it's like it just seems like someone is using it, out of their own genuine interest, when really they were paid a little bit of money to make it seem more natural. And like a lot of brands, you'll see there's lots of different people that are doing like collab posts and things like that. And it can be really effective because people are so exhausted from being sold to, and that having content that just seems like it's like the girl or the person that you just follow for fun is just sharing a product that they really like, or and it's just using it where it doesn't feel like they're selling it, it just feels like they're using it. So I feel like user generated content is actually a really cool strategy that can be used in very creative and low budget ways. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, ladies and gents. I think it's been very good. I see we've still got 4 minutes, and there was a question that I wrote down earlier, and I wasn't wanting to put it onto the chat just in case there wasn't time for it. But in terms of the asking the audience and getting ideas from them, how do you and your team then decide that the suggestions that they're making are actually good ideas and good suggestions?
So good. Yeah. Yeah, I guess it really depends. One thing that's cool is if you hear it more than once. That's a really good barometer, like, okay, multiple people are asking this. Let me see actually if I can pull up the sheet. I said I would share this earlier. So I just want to, but it's kind of like a inside look around what we do. So I'll just share my screen here. So can you guys see this little Google sheet here?
Yeah, we can see it.
Yeah, so this is like our content bucket. So it's in our post ideas. So basically what happens is one of our response team will put like some of these comments in here that she finds are interesting. And then basically we want to go through them and see if we can come up with like, okay, what is the problem that's here? What is the content idea? And what is the outcome that we would want our target market to have from solving that problem? And then we back it up with scripture and things like that, because that's what we do as a brand. But let's just see if there's any little notes or one that could be cool. So it's kind of anytime, one way to see if it could be viable is, can you clearly see what the problem is? Is there an idea around that problem? And can you clearly articulate and share an outcome there? So basically, if someone's sharing a problem, can you solve that problem clearly and in a tangible idea? That's a good way. And sometimes I do recommend actually just giving it a crack. So like giving it a go. So if there is like you notice, okay, this seems like a really weird problem that no one else has really asked, but I don't know, I feel like I do have an answer to this, and I can add some value to this person's life by sharing the answer to this problem. Trying it out, because you never know. I'm always surprised by when I think will land. And if one person is having the question, someone else is probably having it, is a good rule of thumb. Just that one person was a little bit more brave to share it more publicly. So I would say keep track of all the problems that are coming up. If you can clearly articulate an idea and an outcome, that's a good barometer to go with, and just try it out and see what works, and then double down on what does work. Like how you saw I shared one of those reels that it actually came from a very popular carousel post, you know? So it's like you don't always have to create new content. You can kind of repurpose it in a new format, you know?
Brilliant. Brilliant. Well, that is fantastic. Thank you so much, Molly. It's really been great to have you chatting to us and just giving us a lot to think about, but encouraging as well. Very, very encouraging. The one thing I'm definitely going to be taking away from this is don't go wider, but go deeper. Yeah, that's fantastic.
Awesome. Yay. I'm so happy.
Now, ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to hand over to... Sorry, go for it, Molly.
Oh, I'm so happy it was valuable. If you guys have any other questions or anything, feel free to contact me, check out Yes He Is. And yeah, I'd love to hear some of your takeaways as well. So don't be afraid to share them with Natalie or whoever. And I'd love to hear what was valuable for you.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thanks, Molly. Thank you. Now I'd like to hand over to Natalie, the GM of ACM, just to tell you a little bit about upcoming training. And of course, yeah, very excited.
Yeah. Huge thank you to you, Molly. That was absolutely phenomenal. So I know that it has been so valuable for the people who attended. So thank you very much. And then just to quickly tell you about the training which is coming up and to encourage those of you here to attend. So our next one is on the 15th of May with Brad Kirsten on the art of biltong making, 10 ways to tell stories that stick. And so this training had to be postponed. Unfortunately, Brad was ill, but it's coming up on the 15th of May. So just to encourage you to register for that. And then we've got in-person training with Yapi Swanepoel, which has also been postponed, but it's been postponed to early in June. And it's a whole day intensive training on social media. So watch out for the details on that. And if you're in Cape Town, definitely consider coming along for that one as well. So thank you to everyone. See you on training soon.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
This was great.
Thank you, bye.
Guys.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
Yes, bye.
Thank
Bye.
you.
Bye.